In regards to the shape and the design of the ephod, generally Rashi explains what the ephod looked like, very similar to the way the Rambam describes it. However, there are some differences, and this is what our Sikha is going to be discussing. So number one, in regards to the width of the ephod, Rashi says that it was the width similar to the width of the back of a person, and a bit more than that, going over from the back over to his front, over his hips, going a little bit over each side of the stomach. The Rambam says it was like the width of the back of a person from one shoulder to the other, which sounds like it was not more than the width of the back. As far as the length, Rashi says it is tied opposite the heart, beneath the elbows, and it reaches down all the way down to the heels. On the other hand, the Rambam says it goes from the elbows down his back all the way until his feet. So not beneath his elbows, as Rashi says, rather at the elbows, and not to the heels, but rather till the feet. Says Rebbe, these three differences, one difference in the width, where according to Rashi it's more than the Rambam, and two differences in the length, are really connected to a general difference of how Rashi and the Rambam understand the purpose or the idea of what the ephod was all about. In order to understand this, we're first going to have a look at what Rashi says right when he starts describing the ephod. Rashi says, regarding the ephod, I did not find in the Beraisa that discusses the Begodim and the Mishkan, exactly what the design of it was. Says Rashi, an interesting expression, V'libi oimerli, my heart tells me that it's tied behind the person on his back. Its width is like the back of a person, similar to an apron. Rashi gives an old French word for that. And Rashi says this is something that the noble women wear as they ride on horses, and then describes exactly how it's made. Now, as said before, the Rambam generally learns like Rashi as well. But he doesn't say v'yirali. It appears to me that this is the design of the ephod. It sounds like the Rambam must have had some source for why the ephod is made in this particular way. And the Mefarshim explain that the Rambam understood this just from the reading of the Psukim. In truth, Rashi himself brings some proof regarding certain aspects of the ephod from the Psukim. So what does Rashi say? V'libi oimerli, my heart tells me. In order to understand this, the Rebbe introduces another question. In the Pasuk, when it starts discussing the Big Day Kahuna, the Pasuk says, the Eila haBagodim ashayaso, these are the garments that should be made. Chayshen, the ephod, the me'il, the ksainis tashbeit, the mitznefes, the avneit. There are two missing. The tzitz is not there, as well as the michnosayim. The Rebbe is going to be focusing mainly on the tzitz. In a footnote, the Rebbe discusses why the michnosayim are not mentioned. Simply, we could say, is because as opposed to the other garments, which also have the concept of l'chavoy, the l'sefaras, are there for beauty and glory and honor, michnosayim are simply there for tznius, to cover up, and therefore it's a bit of a different category. But in regards to the tzitz, why isn't it mentioned? Now, Rashi doesn't say anything about this. Why not? Says the Rebbe, we could say that it's really, Rashi does answer it based on what he says on the word chayshen. Rashi says on the chayshen that it's tachshit, it's an ornament, keneged halev, opposite the heart, against the heart. What's Rashi telling us with these words? When the Pasuk speaks about the big day kohuna, the garments of kohuna, the Pasuk says, V'asisa big day kodesh, you should make holy garments. So we're calling them garments, la'ari nochicha, and then it says, l'chavei l'sefaris, for honor and glory. So we can learn this in two ways. Are these things, number one, are they mainly garments? It's just made in a beautiful way, in a royal way, in a way that's unique and special. So they are also in a certain sense like an ornament, but it's mainly garments. Or the other way around, is it mainly l'chaved l'sefaris? It's mainly about the beauty, the glory. It's mainly ornaments. It's just made in the shape of a garment. And as the Rebbe will continue later in the Sikha explaining that this is really the machloikas between Rashi and the Rambam, that according to Rashi it's going to be, they're mainly garments, and according to Rambam they're mainly going to be ornaments. The Rebbe says, based on this, when we look at the tzitz, if the big day kohuna are mainly garments, then the tzitz is totally not a garment. It's only an ornament. If, on the other hand, the big day kohuna are mainly ornaments, then on the contrary, the tzitz is more an ornament than anything else. Says the Rebbe, now let's go back to Rashi, when Rashi says about the chayshen, that it's tachshit, it's an ornament, keneged alev, against the heart. Rashi is trying to explain that the chayshen, as opposed to the tzitz, the chayshen is one of the eila habagodim. These are the holy garments that you should be making. It's a garment. as opposed to the tzitz. And this is what Rashi says, it's keneged halev, it's the place where you usually put on garments, as opposed to the tzitz, which is placed on the forehead, a place where you usually don't put on any garments. Once Rashi established that we're speaking about things that we're using as garments, like the choshen is keneged halev, covering over the heart, in continuation to this, Rashi speaks about the ephod. Now, on the one hand, we understand that the ephod and the choshen, they're definitely not regular garments. There's some sort of ornament. They are l'chavid l'sefaros. And that's why Rashi has to say, "V'libi omerli," but my heart tells me that the ephod is like an apron that these noble women wear when they're riding, meaning to say, yes, on the one hand, Rashi brings proof from the psukim regarding certain aspects of the ephod. But the main things that he's bringing proof for is that the ephod is an ornament for itself, and then there's a separate thing, the straps of the ephod and the belt of the ephod. But what kind of ornament is this? We're not sure. You could think maybe it's just like a piece of jewelry on a particular part of the body. And that's why Rashi says, Libi omerli, my heart tells me that the ephod is like an apron, meaning that it's not just a piece of jewelry on a particular part of the body, but it's like an apron serving like a garment. Because, again, according to Rashi, the big dikuna are mainly garments. It's just made in a way of beauty and glory and honor. And that's why Rashi wants to emphasize that it's a garment, both in the choshen, when he says that it's opposite the heart, as well as in the ephod, saying it's like an apron. Now we'll also understand why Rashi says that the noble women wear it when they're riding on horses. He's trying to emphasize, on the one hand, in other words, it's not only a piece of jewelry for the sake of ornament. It is a garment that's being worn as tznius. These women are wearing it as they're riding the horses, obviously trying to cover themselves up. But at the same time, we understand it's a special garment. Only great people wear it. Only the nobility are wearing it, etc. This is all according to Rashi. But according to Rambam, the main point of these big dikuna of the Kohen Gadol are mainly as an ornament. And that's why that's why the Rambam, when he's discussing making the big Kohen Gadol, he actually starts with the tzitz. Because if they're ornaments, tzitz is number one. And similarly, according to the Rambam, he will understand the ephod and the choshen, that they are mainly tachshit and mainly ornaments. Says the Rebbe, now we can understand the differences between Rashi and the Rambam. According to Rashi, that it's a type of levush for extra protection, for extra covering, extra tznius. And similarly, the Kohen Gadol wants to be extra covered. So the ephod starts beneath the elbows, and on the back, that's the main part where you need a half for tznius. There's no need for it to be higher up. It's going to reach down all the way to the ankles to cover extra for the sake of tznius. And on the back, it's going to go not only on the back, but it's going to fold over. It's going to come over around a bit on the stomach as well, all emphasizing the idea that it's there to cover him. It's there as a garment. According to the Rambam, that it's mainly a tachshit, mainly an ornament. There's no need to come up with these extra details, and therefore the Rambam, that it goes all the way to the heel and covering over the stomach or part of the stomach, and therefore, according to the Rambam, it just went to the feet, and it just went on the back, not covering more than that. Now, why, according to the Rambam, does the ephod start lower than the elbows? According to Rashi, it starts lower than the elbows. And according to the Rambam, it starts by the elbows. According to Rashi, we said there's no need for the tznius to cover higher, but why does the Rambam want to learn that it starts higher? That's because we see in a number of places that according to the Rambam, the ephod and the choshen are really like one unit. The Rebbe goes on and proves it from a few different places. And therefore, the ephod is going to start as soon as the choshen finishes. In other words, we want them to overlap or be very close to each other, because both together complete one ornament and one levush. Because the choshen and the ephod go together, and therefore we don't want this gap, which would be according to Rashi, which starts the ephod lower down. Says the Rebbe, this will also explain to us another thing about the Rambam, who holds, as opposed to the Ramban, that when the choshen was put on, you first put on the ephod, and then you put on the choshen, and only then do you tie the ephod. Why are we waiting to tie the ephod after putting on the choshen? Because the choshen and the ephod are really making up one unit, and then when you're going to tie it, what you're tying is not only for the sake of the ephod, but also for the choshen as well. And the Rebbe finishes off with Ahiroi and Avodas Hashem. We all know the famous word of the Baal Shem Tov, everything a Yid sees and hears is in Ahiroi and Avodas Hashem. But here Rashi is telling us something for a Ben Chamish Lemikra, to teach this idea that everyone is shaykh to learn something in Avodas Hashem. Even a child, once he hears this story that we're about to say about Rashi, understands that this concept of learning from everything in Avodas Hashem is shaykh to everyone. The Rebbe says there's a story that's told that Rashi was going in the street and he saw a noblewoman riding on a horse, dressed in this apron as he's describing. And he was actually upset. Why did he need to see such a thing? It doesn't seem like a very tznius thing to notice this noblewoman riding on the horse. When he came to writing his Pirush on the Torah about the ephod, now he felt better because now he was able to learn from this Ohira and his Avodah, which is the Avodah of writing a Pirush ala Torah, he's able to use it as an explanation for the ephod. In other words, the fact that he was shown this from above was in order for him to be able to understand this idea that the ephod is a sort of garment. Not only an ornament, not only a piece of jewelry, but a garment. And Rashi is teaching this to the Ben Chamish Lemikra, that everything that a Yid sees or hears is for a lesson in Avodas Hashem to help you learn Torah and do mitzvahs. Says that based on all of this, we could explain in a deeper way, why Rashi uses the words, V'libi omer li, my heart tells me that it's this particular sort of garment. Generally, when a person sees something, if it's a permissible thing or a mundane thing, obviously we take our hero and avodas Hashem. But here we're speaking about seemingly something that would have been better that one wouldn't see. It's not the most tznius thing. In order to take something like that it should help you in avodas Hashem and limud HaTorah. This is connected specifically with the leiv, with the heart. Chassidus explains that it's in the leiv, that's where the yechidah shines. And the yechidah, the essence of the neshama, that pintel yid, is that aspect of the neshama that nothing can get in the way. It even has the power to transform the negative into positive. And therefore, because of this darga of the leiv, the heart, the yechidah. So on the one hand, he sees something negative, so yes, he's upset about it. But at the same time, it helps him to come to greater understandings within Torah to transform it into something of kedusha. This helps him understand the pirush of the begodim of the Kohen Gadol.